I do, and so I won't step on to that. I'll do the book show for you because that explains exactly why the tour, how the tour, why I'm dressed like this to do a book show, why I'm going to sing, why it's a musical review. Those things have all evolved. Everything. I tried to do things. I tried to sing, created the Ballerina. I tried to do a serious book talk. No, this happened. So I will go into that. It's everything more.
Oh, hi, Iestyn. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's lovely to see you, Petra. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. And I see you're in your lovely tutu.
Yes, I thought we'd go for the whole kit and caboodle today. As it's going everywhere and it's through you, no stinting. We've been up very early. I've been warming up, hanging on to, you can't see it, but there's an old Rayburn. I'm house sitting. So there's this very old Rayburn. I've been holding on to it, thinking this must have been practically Victorian. And I feel a bit Victorian today. It's a bit creepy. But never mind. We're ready.
But now, first we have to talk about, you wrote a book, and tell me about just a little bit about this book.
Well, I was an experiment, as we'll hear in the show, from Combined Services Entertainment, who wanted to mix up what entertainment they sent out to war zones. I never knew, you'll hear, that it was for Iraq and Afghanistan they were intending, but they were. And so it was a stand-up group and then a variety turn at the end. And I was given permission to write a book about those tours. And so I did. And that has become quite a thing. And I've been touring this book talk and it's evolved, as you'll hear. So really, I was just a risk that paid off. Before I went on stage, I'll just tell you, the director of Combined Services Entertainment, before I got my first laugh, she said, either this is going to be okay, or I really could be out of a job putting this act on here in Basra. That was how serious. She didn't tell me that. I saw it. She sent me the tour report afterwards where I saw her fear about how I was going to do. But I was fearful as well.
But now the character that you are now portraying, or that you are playing, how do I say that, with the tutu, tell me a little bit about the background of that.
Well, see, I saw ballet when I was 18. I was going to study singing at music college, which I did, but was asked to leave because I created this character in my second year of Guildhall. And basically the powers that be said, we warned you, we wanted more Schumann, less Sugarplum. Go off and do your variety. So no, that was the truth. I was sort of misusing B31. That's not a drug. It was the German song laboratory. Okay. I just saw ballet and I went, what's this? I just was upset. I still am. I find the ballet is just joyous. I just get joyful. And I wanted to know what it meant. I'd never seen it before. What? And so I had the mimes explain to me, I am the queen of the swans and there's the lake. And then Ballerina was in the bookstore working and she started to teach and we realized I was picking up the steps, then the talking happened and then the interview thing, and it evolved, it snowballed. I started to get private parties and she's very demanding and she's very peremptory. She's very old school Russian. She was in the Kirov when it was the Kirov. And so I researched 15 seconds of stage time. There are 14 books that I worked out how much I read. So I just made the character, and it's as Michael Nunn said, one of the ballet boys, it's an idea gone bonkers. That's the explanation.
But do you look at, or do you know, if you say you read a lot of books, do you take the mick a little bit out of what is really ballet? Do you?
No, the ballet. Okay. I do the ballet straight. What I'm sort of mocking is the diva mannerisms, the sort of very, give me this, I want this. No, I never send up the ballet because the ballets are so beautiful. I send up the diva mannerisms.
Oh, okay. But, okay, and Iestyn, so now you wrote this book and you have a book tour that you do.
Yeah. I do, and so I won't step on to that. I'll do the book show for you because that explains exactly why the tour, how the tour, why I'm dressed like this to do a book show, why I'm going to sing, why it's a musical review. Those things have all evolved. Everything tried to do things. I tried to sing, created the Ballerina. I tried to do a serious book talk. No, this happened. So I will go into that. It's everything more, with me, usually more dramatically than with others sometimes.
Okay. And the title of the book?
My Tutu went Awol.
Oh, okay. and that's
I lost it. I lost it in Kandahar. I couldn't find it in its time up in Kandahar off the carousel. Huh.
And now, so, and this is available everywhere in bookshops and Amazon, on Amazon.
Amazon. I recorded the audiobook and I read it myself, and I ad-lib in it, and they left the bloopers in, and I sing the songs in it as well. So
Amazing.
I love the bloopers being left in there. I'm pleased they did that, because I can't do accents, so they're filming me, recording me warming up accents, which I can't do. And in the end, and one of the characters, he's from Liverpool. I moved him. I said, he's not from Liverpool anymore. This was in the recording. He's from Wales, because I can do a Welsh accent. All of that's left. Why not?
You're the boss.
Yeah.
Okay, Iestyn, so you're going to do the whole the book.
I thought so. Why not? Let's see who wants it, and here it is. I will do it as I do this live. I'm just going to do it as it's going around Cheltenham Festival and Cambridge and all of the rest, and the Probus and the Women's Institute. This week is mad. I've got a Sergeant Major's mess. I've got a school assembly in one of the schools down the road that's just failed its Ofsted report. It's been a class of a terrible school. I'm going there Monday. Maybe that's what they've asked me. Stand up. Women's Institute, all sorts this week. So this is, and Zoom shows to here and Wales and everywhere. It's a lovely week this week. Yeah. And so this is what I do. I'm just going to show you what happens.
And I thank you so much, because I feel so privileged, and now I can see it as well. Okay.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to just switch to full screen now, and then you're going to do your thing.
My prop.
There you are.
Now,
go for it.
Here's the start of the show. And what always happens is I have a low-key introduction. Obviously, it's a book festival. They're not going to do the whole, here we are, all the way from Blackpool and the CV thing, where you put all your big stuff, your telly, your raw gigs. They don't do that. They just say, and here's the next author. Do you know, I have to tell you something. My one big disaster with touring this show, I ran into a tent and sat down at the round table to start the travel writers. I was late, I was running, I was doing a festival, I wasn't doing it. And they were looking at me strangely. And I had the Tutu one, but you know, this is what we do. And then someone got up and she said, right, now welcome to our first speaker, who will tell us about gardens. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'd run into the wrong tent. It was about gardens. But it got worse, because when I'm trying to sneak out, I heard this author just say, I'm just going to tell you a bit about myself. And someone in the audience shouted out, I have not driven 3 hours to hear you talk about yourself. Please tell us about the distillation of lavender in medieval time. Can you imagine, on my way out? So I went, when he came to my talk, I got him for her. She was so, it was a dreadful thing to say. Yeah. Right, stop. And so that's me being nice today. So I'm waving this in front of myself after my introduction, you know. I said, pretend you haven't seen me. And then I do my big voice of God, all the way from headlining in London, in Blackpool. He has had a private performance for Her Majesty, 4 series on Channel 4, and 4, there's a lot of 4s in this introduction, 4 tours entertaining the troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. Please, playing Madame Galina, Ballet Star Galactica, welcome. Dropping the gauze and the crowd goes wild. Madame Galina, Ballet Star Galactica.
Woo!
Shall we start with something ballet dancing? I'm early, I walk around there. It gets better. I know. Smile, darling, it's a night on Zoom. What, that's not technically impressive all of a sudden, and again. Don't patronize me. The Royal Marines love his face. I don't know why. They just do.
Wow.
So that is the opening of my show. And then I do the, never fear, Ballerina's here, hurrah. Let's try that again. Never fear, Ballerina's here, hurrah. Thank you. Such a spontaneous gesture of welcome. You like the pirouettes, huh? Not as easy for me as I just made them look for you. I'm going to let you into a trade secret. I do not have ideal body to be ballerina. No, if you'd like to look, you see what it is. My back is slightly too long for my legs. And then I call off being Madame Galina and say, I need to talk to you as me now, because I need to explain to you why that is the opening of a book talk, ladies and gentlemen who've attended, thank you. And why I'm in a tutu, and why this is also a musical review. I'm in a tutu because I first started my book tour in Brighton, and I wore a suit, and it was a very plain blue suit. I looked like an estate agent from Fulham, apparently. One of the first questions at the end was, why was your tutu look such a shock getting to Iraq and Afghanistan after the, the comedians in their suits? And I thought, if they can't compute drag in Brighton, I'm going to be lost tomorrow in Lichfield. I started wearing the dress, you see, which really annoyed my publishers. They sent me an email saying that Penelope Fitzgerald would not have gone to Hay-on-Wye with her squeeze box. Well, each to his own. So I carried on wearing the dress. And then why is it a musical review? It is going to be a musical review. It's because the MOD, the Ministry of Defense, they got a bit worried about this show and this talk and what might be in it. And so they waited for me to go to a town called Barnstaple. If Barnstaple doesn't mean anything to you, just imagine the kind of place where you won't ever go to it again once you've been. You make sure your nearest and dearest will never go to this place. You make sure, you tell your electrician, you tell your plumber, your gardener, don't go to, but you stop random people in the street and say, don't go to Barnstaple. So I was going to Barnstaple, and it's near the Royal Marines base in Chivenham. So the Ministry of Defense phoned the Royal Marine, who my show and book is based upon. I will introduce him properly eventually. They sent him across the estuary. Don't think anything dramatic, he didn't kayak across the estuary in the dead of night in a balaclava with the smuts on his face like you see on the Royal Marines adverts. No, he just drove his Lexus around the peninsula. So he was instructed, don't let your little chum in the tutu know you're coming. Sneak in as the lights are going down, because otherwise he could think ahead in his material and take out anything that is exploitative and or a security risk. So this should have worked in theory. He did that. He didn't tell me he was coming. He sneaked in as the lights are going down. But about 2 minutes in, I did something to really annoy him. And I blame myself for everything. I blame myself for doing this, and I blame myself for what happened on stage with him in Iraq. I do accept responsibility. He piped up from the back, princess. He calls me princess, ladies and gentlemen, or tutu boy, or you know, the Ministry of Defense and the military, they love writing acronyms, you know, initials for everything. So I was down in tour reports after he'd calmed down with me as MLG, which apparently stood for My Little Girl. My little girl narrowly escaped another rocket attack. MLG ran the wrong way when they bombed the airport. You can imagine, I was a little bit, I didn't put anyone else other than myself in danger, but it was a little bit, and he so piped up, Princess, can I just ask you again, I was out in Iraq and Afghanistan doing de-escalation. Please, can you not refer to me as People Killer Action Man? So I know he's there, ladies and gentlemen. And he said, and why aren't you singing? And I said, well, it's a serious talk. He said, Princess, you can tell me it's a serious talk. You can tell everybody else it's a serious talk. If you want, you can tell them that you're a touring one-man post office, but you're not doing a serious talk because you're wearing your frock of many doilies. So why aren't you singing? And I said, well, you'd like to hear him sing, wouldn't you, ladies and gentlemen? And they would like to hear me sing. And he said, perhaps you'd like to sing them the aria, the song that my nan loves, that Schubert you do, because she's been ill. She's got cholesterol. Ooh. And she went to the doctors with her cholesterol, and he gave her a pamphlet. And on this pamphlet, it said, the rule of thumb for fats in your diet is never leave teeth marks in butter. So my nan's looked at that and she said, that's stupid for a start. How does the doctor expect me to eat my tea cakes without my teeth in? So I sang. This is the opening number. I love him. He's so funny. I'm just very naughty because I'm too lazy to make up my own material.
Des Lebens wilder Kreis umstrickt. Hast du mein Herz so warme Liebe entzünden, hast mich in eine bessere Welt entrückt, in eine bessere Welt entrückt. Oft hat ein Seufzer deiner Harfe entflossen, ein süßer, heiliger Akkord von dir. Den Himmel bessere Zeiten mir erschlossen, du holde Kunst, ich danke dir dafür, du holde Kunst, ich danke dir.
So we're off. On
That was so beautiful. Oh my goodness.
How sweet of you.
Where
I've been
did that
retrained.
voice come from?
Well, you know, since we've known each other, that's been over the COVID period. That's been the bulk of my retraining. I mean, I'm 56 now, and I thought, oh, I was just going along with my voice, but I had a lesson from Claire Rutter, the soprano, big soprano. She had them adjusted a few things. She had the Mahler players cast me as Hunding in the Valkyrie, and the Siegmund. I know, and that I had the biggest imposter syndrome, but the Siegmund, every time, I'll tell you something spooky. There was a dress rehearsal Sunday, and then there was the first night was Thursday, and they said that they would fly us home from Scotland if we needed. Every time I tried to book that ticket home, the internet went down, my card wouldn't work, and so in the end I just said, oh, they've offered us gigs, I'll stay in the digs. The Siegmund, over from Germany, Peter Wedd, he was staying in the digs, and after the dress rehearsal, he said, I offer you something. He was very gentle, he's very spiritual, he's a wonderful man, wonderful singer, but also just a wonderful man. And he said, I offer you something. You don't quite sing down your column properly. You don't, different from your speaking voice. For the 3 days that we were in the digs together, on the same two phrases in the Hunding part at the beginning, I had 9 hours of singing lessons, and I have a singing lesson every week now. So
wow.
And I went back to my old coach at Guildhall, and her husband came into the house in the middle. He asked her while we were having tea, oh, by the way, who were you playing for earlier, that juicy bass baritone? And she said, it's Iestyn. And I had to sing a bit to him for him to believe me. So that's
amazing.
Happened. Yes, I'm so lucky. I had a lesson from him 2 days ago on the Erlkönig, which is the Marine's favorite song, which I do at the end. So that's a question that's always asked. So Petra, that's always a question that's asked in the book tour. Where does the voice come from?
Yes.
So,
I mean, I've heard you sing on Facebook, and I just thought to myself, my goodness, you know, you cannot, when I speak to you, I cannot imagine you have that amazing voice.
Oh, how blessed you. No, it's nothing. That's great. Thank you. I'll tell him, because I really got bollocked in my last lesson, because I was doing things like not, he says, look like Munch's scream when you sing that long, because of my, because of course, being the variety performer, you're always, and for singing, it's just this, So, there. So now we know, ladies and gentlemen, that it's a musical review. I better introduce the Marine, because he's the whole story. I met him on the HMS Victory. I was just down the road from where I'm house sitting now. I had a 1 up, 1 down for £35 a week. You'd never get that now. It'd be about 10 times that. And I was doing my singing practice, some Rossini, and I used to live opposite the village hall, which was the theatre, the Jubilee Hall, where Benjamin Britten used to put on some of his operas. And I heard a voice from outside in the street while I was practicing saying, you singing, cut glass. And I thought, what? And I said, sorry, is it too loud, leaning out of the window? She said, no, sorry, I meant opaque glass. I thought, okay, we'll get your glass right. What? She said, can you come outside? I said, okay. I went outside. She was in the middle of the road. She had a twin set on in midday, this was, and 3 rows of pearls, and a filofax wrapped in tweed. And she said, in there, pointing to the theatre, our baritone has just cancelled on us. He's come down with better gig-itis. And I'd like you to replace him, please, as Coco in the Mikado on Thursday. Right, I said, fine, I'm doing that. I can just. So I went and did Coco. One of our big journalists here, Libby Purvis, Radio 4, used to do midweek. She came. She had to organise singers for the National Maritime Museum. I went and sang there. The first Sea Lord came, and he rang me after the show and said, hello, he's quite posh, warning you. He said, hello, this year marks the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Trafalgar. And sorry, he's very posh. This year marks the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Trafalgar. And Her Majesty is coming on board HMS Victory. In the great cabin, we're having a supper for her, and we thought we might like to entertain her. And I said, well, what would you normally do? Bore her? And he said, that's one thing. In front of Her Majesty, I don't want you to talk. Okay. We'll have a dry run earlier in the year because I've been Googling you. And he said, I want to know what your musical influences are. I've heard that you're the son of a country and western singer father. I am, ladies and gentlemen. From the age of 5, I was his gimmick in a tassel jacket with daffodils down the front. I used to be dragged on the stage at all the municipal centres around Hampshire, renamed the Ponderosa for the evening. And we used to close the first half following a troupe of all singing, all dancing animal puppets, featuring an emu that belted out, anything you can do, I can do better, while Jemima Giraffe with a feather boa stripped behind it. That explains a lot about what you're watching this morning, ladies and gentlemen. He also said, your mother, I see, was an opera singer. Yes, I said, and I was waiting to see if he also had Googled that she was a stage psychic banned from theatres around the country in the 70s, this would have been. Which do you want to hear about first? Her failed opera career or her failed career as a stage psychic? Let's have the stage psychic first. She was giving a reading in Aylesbury, and you know, you've seen this, where the psychic comes on and she's doing the whole, I've got something, and she's Welsh. The light is shining over you. I've got a Charlie coming through for this woman in the second row, and Charlie's telling me he's your father, and he did not die of natural causes. Ask your murdering cow of a mother. So they didn't want her to do any more of those, not surprisingly. And it was sad because, as I've said, I ruined her first career, ladies and gentlemen, by being born. Because she'll tell you this. She'll tell you, I had the rarest form of operatic voice gifted to me from generations back, even though there was an adoption in our family and they all worked for the waterboard in my steag, I still had the magical voice. A contralto with full coloratura facility, she said, could have taken me to the top of the operatic tree. And then when the calls were coming, I was pregnant with you and I gave birth. You practically fell out in the corridor of St. Stephen's Hospital, weighing 13. I'm not saying, ladies and gentlemen, that I was a fat baby, but when her waters were about to break, across 3 counties, they did issue flood warnings. To give you a burst of her great, West Bedford winning classic, Rossini's Nacqui alla Fanno. Nacqui alla Fanno, e pianto. Rossini's Nacqui alla Fanno, except in my family it's known as Oops, Iestyn's Knackered Your Fanny. So that was the influence hanging over my head, going for this dry run to sing for Her Majesty on the HMS Victory. Obviously, I went in my black tie up the gangway. I wasn't wearing this or anything silly. I got into the great cabin, and there on a mannequin was one of Nelson's own uniforms, the jacket, which of course was short because he was 5'1". I was stunned by that. Just that was stunning. But in the corner, and I'll tell you what, not short at all, was this Royal Marines commando. He is 6'2", he is baby of face, he is blue of eye, and he is rocky of outcrop. So of course I go and say hello. I say hello, and he's looking at me. Hello, sir. If you're a civilian, you're immediately an officer, which you'll see, forgets when we get to Iraq. Hello, sir. And the first Sea Lord said, this is Snacks. He's about to be deployed to Iraq. And I said, goodness, are you scared? And he said, no, I'm too well trained. And I think this is going really well. And I said, but I have to notice something. You've got a little scar here. Was that from shrapnel? He said, I am aware, sir, that I have a little scar here. No, it wasn't from shrapnel, sir. It was from my father being a bit premature, taking the stabilizers off my kiddie bicycle. Then the first Sea Lord said, luckily, Iestyn is dressed down today, because I was in my black tie, I wasn't dressed as this, which he described as trailing talcum powder in clouds and wearing unconscionable knickers. So he was very pleased that I was dressed down. He said, because I'm too often to be seen dressed as Madame Galina, ballet star Galactica, which, if you know anything about Royal Marines and what they like to get up to, you will know already got Stax's interest. And he said, how did you get into the drag then? And I said, oh, age 12, I played Sandy in a school production of Grease. And the First Sea Lord again said, that's probably the same as our steward Wendy, how he got into drag. He's not really called Wendy, our steward. He's called Darren. But we let him be Wendy every other Tuesday behind the bar, and you ring for your gin, and he comes through in a dropped waist, décolleté, with a beauty spot where you never want a beauty spot. He got into drag playing Mabel at Eton in the Pirates of Penzance. And I had to admit, sorry, nothing is glamorous for me. I got into drag playing Sandy in Grease at a comprehensive, and it was a mixed school, not all boys, because I was the only pupil there, girls or boys, age 12, with both the high notes for Hopelessly Devoted to You and the cleavage for You're the One That I Want. And then the First Sea Lord's wife, she was a guest, and she said, can we have a little encore from you?
Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Blow the wind south o'er the bonny blue sea. Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Blow, bonny breeze, and bring him to me. They told me last night there were ships in near fleet, and I hurried down to the deep rolling sea. But my eye could not see it, wherever might be it, the bark that is bearing my lover to me. Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Blow the wind south o'er the bonny blue sea. Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Blow, bonny breeze, and bring him to me. Oh, is it not sweet to hear the breeze singing, as lightly it comes o'er the deep rolling sea? But sweeter and dearer it is when it's bringing the bark of my lover in safety to me. Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Blow the wind south over the bonny blue sea. Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Blow, bonny breeze, and bring him to me.
Oh, Iestyn, that is so beautiful.
Thank you. Well, but we need to let you choose, Paul. The audience, we need to let you choose, because I'm sorry, I'm bowing in different ways, not because I'm desperate for applause, but because I get confused being a variety term with the anecdotes, the ballet, the whole thing, which bow to use. So I'll tell you what, we will let you choose, ladies and gentlemen, which bow I'm going to use after the subsequent musical numbers. We'll play pick a bow, any bow. Would you like heartfelt operatic type bow? Don't decide yet, the other two might be more rubbish. Would you like the cheeky chappy type bow? Or shall we go again with our scarf from the beginning, and we do the Royal Shakespeare Company bow, where you let them know you're coming, let them know you're coming, let them know you're coming, and you're out, and you drop like a felled camel. Would you like bow 1, 2, or 3?
I would like bow 3.
Right, that's usually the case. We'll go with bow 3. So, I choked myself on my own funniness. Hang on. So, I get the gig for Her Majesty. nothing much to tell you about that. It's just, I remember when I was bowing and she was applauding, I thought, I wish she'd take her gloves off because it's deadening the sound of her applause. And then I swear to you, the first Sea Lord, it's like he set me up, because I rang him and said, thank you so much for that portrait. And I'd like some more of them. I mean, it's thrilling to do, thinking I could go and sing at the officers' mess at the Hilton in Park Lane. And he said, well, phone Combined Services Entertainment, you know, they deal with all the leisure activities for the military. So I ring them. They don't want me to sing, but they also didn't want the poetry circle, or there were two ladies offering to go out. Because I don't know, you have to know something. I don't at any point know that what they're planning for the mix-up of the acts and everything is it's for Iraq and Afghanistan. It doesn't occur to me it's for war zones. I'm only trying to do it for officers' mess at the Hilton because I've just sung for the Queen. You know, obviously I'm not going to be sent out and do the well. More for me. Never name the well from which you will not drink, as Margot Fontaine remembers, an old Egyptian saying that Fontaine used to use. So I'm naming the well from which I never do. They said, before you hang up, though, because they don't want me to sing, they said, your name is very unusual. It is very unusual. The Royal Marine himself couldn't spell it. They said, are you the Iestyn who, by any chance, we've been keeping tabs on since Edinburgh that does this drag ballerina, Madame Galina? I said, I will own up to being that very presence. Why? They said, we want to book a variety turn. I said, I am a variety turn. No. And they want one, we want one that looks fluffy. Obviously, they can't see over the phone. I mean, here I am looking very fluffy. We need one with skills, you know, pirouettes and stuff. And you saw the pirouettes at the beginning, because you have to impress Royal Marines because they're physical monsters themselves. Otherwise, they kick off. I'm still not getting this, that it's, why would they be kicking off the officers' mess? You know, I'm still not, because I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, they love me, they love me. And they said, would you please come in for an audition? And I said, I will. I went in for an audition. And my act is all about, after the dance and everything, we discover my dancing partner. Sorry, going back into character, I may as well show you this rather than show and don't tell. Goodness gracious. Ladies and gentlemen, I have seriously let you down. I was introduced as the great ballet partnership, and my dancing partner, Zander Parish from the Mariinsky, he is at Heathrow still. They have put him in a side room, and it is not customs. It is not quarantine. It is a very rare form of irrigation. That's a slow burn gag. You're never going to get it. So, and then of course, I audition men out of the audience to replace Zander Parish, and we do the scarf, you know, with this, hold my scarf. It's a lovely moment of, you know, and it's sort of put your hands just under my floating ribs. Don't dig with them. This is ballet, not SM, all of this. But you know, and then I die of the snake bite. You know, when she dies of the snake bite, and you're so distraught at my death that you try to revive me. Obviously, that's not in the ballet. And I was, whether or not he goes for the kiss of life, my line out of that is always, it's always worth a try going for the mouth-to-mouth, ladies and gentlemen. With Royal Marines, you can give them a choice of end. So, but it's naughty. But the sweetest moment, you know, when she's let go of the scarf, no, she's still got the scarf. She's still got the scarf. So she does the step, step, all of that gorgeous stuff. And you know, she wraps herself up in it. And I say to him, and you look at me with great love. And that moment, the boy, if he always gets the scream, because he's always either grabs me to him or just this look of adoration. I always corpse there, always makes me laugh. And so that happened. But the Combined Services Entertainment office, when I went for my audition, it was all women in the thing. So I'm just doing the pat and thinking, what am I? I mean, what kind of narrow mind do I have that, you know, I don't think just get a woman out of, because I once did my set for an LGBTQI app thing and danced with this wonderful lesbian called Olga. It was one of the most freeing things, because I don't know, it's a very bizarre thing, it's being Welsh. So I thought, what am I going to do today? And I thought I might have to just lesbianize the crux of my act, you know. And then the door opened, And in came Brian, who was going to redo the toner on the photocopier. And see, so the whole thing they needed to know is I'm fluffy, but they needed to know, does he have enough gob, remember, when the Royal Marines kick off, you know? So Brian comes in. So I wrote Brian in to do the scarf by the days I've just been the kid, the whole lot. And there are two things. Combined Services Entertainment now know that I have enough gob on me to deal with Royal Marines. And two, Brian is still on beta blockers to this day. So I signed on the dotted line, and I still don't know. And they sit me down and they say, right, a security talk. I'm like, what? Why for the Hilton? I live in Kenneton. I'm not going to worry about Park Lane, you know. But you can only guarantee your security up to 90%. Fine. They say, you will have to wear a Kevlar helmet and a metal jacket. Well, that's going to make pirouettes a bit difficult. I'm thinking, okay, but you know, you're paying me, I'll wear what you want. They then said, you will have to bed down behind the wire with the squaddies. Oh, that's an unexpected purpose, you know. And then the kisser. What would you be like with the desert conditions, the camel spiders, and the threat of insurgency attack? I nearly fainted. They've got my signature. I have had goat's cheese and string fries at their expense. The MOD, I thought, can compel me to go. They knew after a while I'd auditioned, not realizing, and they said to me afterwards, after all was done and dusted, you could have just owned up and said, sorry, I auditioned thinking it was for this, I'm not going to Iraq. Next thing that's happening, I'm on a TriStar, ladies and gentlemen, which is a recommissioned jumbo jet. When you get to the military airports, there I am, terrified out of my head. But I'm still looking at this thing thinking, at least I was hoping to fly out to Iraq by accident on something that looked like Thunderbird 3 and not that thing that looks like Orville, the cartoon albatross. We get on it. We get over Iraqi airspace. You know, and the squaddies, I'm seeing them in front of me. Only one of them slept the whole way. They only woke him up to eat food. So he's literally asleep, I swear to you, eating food. And then puts the plate down and he doesn't move. One of them's playing the most bloodthirsty war game. And I'm looking up thinking, what about, where are we? And then I think, I watch a lot of ballet in my spare time. And then we get to it over Iraqi airspace. And the pilot says, right, lights off. They switch the lights into blackout in the cabin of the plane, right? You're in your metal jacket and your Kevlar helmet. And then he starts helter-skeltering this jumbo jet, Orville, the cartoon albatross, helter-skeltering it down into Basra Airport because from the ground up is a flak attack going on. Halfway down the plane, apparently you can still hear me singing, nearer, my God, nearer to thee. Somehow we get down safely, ladies and gentlemen. All the color is now gone out of your world. There are fires on the horizon, which is, when I asked, was explained. The insurgents are burning the oil to stop the infidel having use of it. There is constant noise from generators, from helicopters overhead. So there's here, there's this. They were bombing the airport. It's sand, dust, those halogen lights. It's just hell. I'm not exaggerating because the Stax Marine hates when journalists do that. He came out with a classic where we were touring with a journalist who wrote, he was recording into a dictaphone and he said, and Stax was sitting there and he said, it's hell on earth. It's 120 degrees. I'm in a vehicle. It's pitch black. And Stax took the dictaphone off him and said, it's winter in Iraq. It's nowhere near that. And it's not pitch black because this vehicle is fitted with a safety feature, which is the windscreen for the driver to see out of. Cop on, gave him a back. Don't over-egg your pudding about the danger. And in the midst of this, though, was an orange and chrome recommissioned school bus, which is our transport. So we get on that. And it's got sandbags up the floor. And of course, I live by the coast. And I said, why are the sandbags on here? It's the desert. It's not going to flood, is it? And also, though, at the windows are little gingham curtains. And I'm obsessed. I'm OCD opening and closing these because these are the only sign of civilization. And they tell me, don't break them. They were sent out by the East Grinstead Women's Sewing Circle. And I tell you this because my mother, when I rang her to tell her I was going to Iraq, you must only tell your nearest and dearest. You can't, so I had to phone my parents. She said, oh, that's exciting. Exciting. She said, shall I go to the Waterloo Action Centre to send out knitted balaclavas and scarves? I said, no, don't tell anyone. See what I'm saying. I phoned my dad, though, in Norwich. He dropped the phone. And then my stepmother came on. No wonder I go for the transient love of an audience with my parents. My stepmother came on the line. I said, she said, what have you just told him? I said, I'm going to Iraq to entertain the troops. She said, oh, you go and do that. Good luck to you. Well done. I'm the one left with your poor father whose eczema's coming out around his scalp now, like someone's sliced the pomegranate and put it in the microwave. But you, bugger off. So, yeah, nice. Very nice. So we get to the base. And there is an anti-blast wall now, and there's this clicky black plastic walkway. For some reason, it reminded me because the anti-blast wall's got the chicken wire over the top, and this walkway. Do you know when Scout is in the chicken wire costume in To Kill a Mockingbird? That's what always everything is a book reference coming up during this tour. The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie at one point. Map and Lucia, Don't Ask Me How, some Thomas Mann, but also these things are all going because it's just crackers, it's crackers. And then we see our Royal Marine liaison out there, ladies and gentlemen, who is, guess who? 6'2", baby of face, blue of eye, rocky of outcrop. It is Stack from on board the HMS Victory. And I say again, hello.
Wow.
And he looks down at me and he says, of all the bases in all the war zones in all the world, she walks into mine. I take it you're this Madame Galina Ballet Star Galactica thing at the end of the evening. I've been referring to the show as 4 comedians and it. I want you to stay behind. I need a word after I've given you the general security briefing. So then he looked at all of us very seriously, very slowly, eagle eye action, man. Drew himself up to his full height and gave us the security briefing. Welcome, our funny funsters, to Iraq. It is alert amber. That means it is not good. You will wear your body armor and your Kevlar helmet all the time. If you really need to take it off so that you can eat scoff. Scoff is food. Scoff is not an ironic take on the name of the chef, Escoff-E-A. I guess you hope. If you need to take it off, scoff, you will be able to put it back on with the Velcro correctly fastened and straight and with your name showing clearly within 30 seconds. If an alarm, when an alarm sounds and you have to get under hard cover, you get there immediately and you stay there until we tell you it is safe to emerge from hard cover. All of you dismissed, apart from the ballerina thing, stay behind. And now he's looking down at me, and I'm looking up at him. And he said, I've watched your little show on YouTube. I am newly decorated. I am to be respected. You are not to chivvy me on stage to join in with your tiddle-iddle thud in your frock of many doilies. You are to leave me alone at the back of the venue unmolested. Okay, I said. He said, you're a very unusual choice of act to bring out here. Am I? Yes, he said. Another thing, we are easing you in gently. This afternoon's first gig will only have me as a Royal Marine in it. We are keeping other Royal Marines from it to just not give you the baptism of fire that probably you will end up deserving. One last thing, don't die on my watch. You've got such a funny Welsh name, I can't spell it. For your death certificate, your body bag, and an indelible pen on your forehead. Dismissed. Welcome to Iraq. So I go off with the comedians to my tent, thank you, and he goes to tell, he's a devout Catholic, I'm not criticising that, but he goes to tell his rosary after this because someone saw him and he told the last bead, pointed to my tent and said, "And give me strength." So we're there now. And how have we been misled? What was that first gig full of? That first gig was full of Royal Marines, ladies and gentlemen, because they've been on patrol and seen on a poster me in the drag. And as Stax himself, when he'd calmed down, said, expecting Royal Marines commandos to stay away from a show with drag in it is like expecting a politician to go for a colonic and not get a doggy bag. Don't blame me for that. That's a Royal Marines gag. So they're all down the track between you, and they're all in war mode, and the normal ranks are on this side, and they're on fighting the same war, or everyone in the room, but Royal Marines are the worst gate crashers. And it's nervous, and there's a bit of atmosphere, and into the bit of atmosphere, unexpected, in the dress. And I was told by the Combined Services Entertainment, you're either going to be the wow factor or the what the, and it was a bit of the second more. But I'm quite calm because I've got on stage a wing commander, a half colonel, and a colonel to do the audition for the scarf pas de deux. So I'm doing the whole colonel a bit more, what? Yeah. Then the boys are thinking, oh, this is fun watching our colonel get embarrassed. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe I won't get them to fly me home. I'm slightly more settled. Then the Royal Marines spot the roughest and the biggest and the recently decorated one of their number, and they shove Stax on the stage. The wing commander, the colonel and the half colonel, they leave me to it. They're not getting in the middle of this. And I'm looking up at him. And he's looking down at me. And I'm looking up at him. And he's looking down at me. One last time. I'm looking up at him. And he's looking down at me. And all I can think of is that it's a dry camp, which is irrelevant. That means there's no booze. And it was my fault. This is the second thing that's my fault. I'm afraid I cupped his genitals. And I said, it's a dry camp, but here's rising damp. The whole place was not, when you've just asked a plumber or a builder or a mechanic for an estimate for work and you get that intake of breath and then they say, it's going to cost you. I swear to you, the whole room did that. It's going to cost you. He had his hand down the back of here. He grabbed the Tutu underwiring, yanked it up, flipped me over his shoulder, and he ran out of the venue. So, of course, they do give chase. They're not leaving. But he knows this base. He doubled back, avoiding them. He ran to the wire. There was a strategically placed tank at the wire, and he upended me, and he was about to stuff me head first in the hull of this tank. But he saw there was a journalist, the journalist over-egging with he saw him, he was filming this, so he put me down, Stax, and he did the whole, just all in fun, brushing. He said, I won't stuff you in the tank. I'm standing. He stood me on the tank because he said, that is the naughty tank. And I'm now looking down at him and he's looking up at me. And he said, if you want to avoid not being stuffed in tank, I'd get you to sing what I particularly liked from your recital for Her Majesty on Victory. And I said, that's all right. What was it called? So I remembered that I'd done on the HMS Victory, I'd done some French songs that, when English singers, the rest of the world probably hates this, when English singers slightly mistranslate French songs. So I was just doing this as the comedy bit. So I was singing, the autumn leaves have clogged the down pipe. I'm just nonsense like that. And I also did, this is true, I did the Welsh song, Alan Amor, my happy spring, that. And they said, the first title said, but Her Majesty won't understand it. Do you think you could translate as we go along? And I said, well, yeah. I said, the first two verses are quite normal, but the third's quite Welsh. First verse is sort of, my love is fairer than the lily, my love. It's a bit like the Schumann setting of what's that in? Diva. So it's like this. But the third verse goes, I have a cow, lives on the house in front of me. Sorry, can't gone into the German, going back into the Welsh. I have a cow, lives on the beach in front of my house. If you look closely, you'll see it has 3 silver horns. If you look more closely, you'll wish you hadn't have done, because you'll see it has a singular ability for milking itself. So none of those are the right songs. And now listen, I don't want you to think, well, it is sort of bullying, this dumped on the tank, but and at this moment now, it couldn't get any worse. Yes, it could, because the insurgents started shelling. And I'm above the tank, remember, above the wire in this fluffy gear. So I'm quite a conspicuous target. So, of course, I'm just waiting for him to let me down. And he doesn't. He leaves me up there. And I said, sorry, shouldn't we, sorry, he's down here. Shouldn't we be worried about this? And he said, of course we should be worried. I wouldn't leave you up there if it was something to worry about, would I? Because what did I tell you? Don't die on my watch. I'm not going to kill you on my watch because I can't spell your name on your forehead or your body bag or your death certificate. We've annoyed them a bit this morning. And I said, how did you annoy them this morning? And as I am standing here, what the Royals and Marines had done to annoy the insurgents that morning had, because they could see the insurgents had them in their telescopic sights because of the glinting of the lens, the Royal Marines all sat in a row for 45 minutes, completely still and silent, staring back at them. And then on the count of 3, all stood up and did the patty cake dance and sat back down again. And that really annoyed insurgents. And anyway, so it's not really bullying going on. Well, it is. But we've bonded now, Staps and I. He taught me to drive in a Saracen. And I got his voice back. He obviously, you can imagine, he's shouty for parade. If they've ever got parade drill, and they had a brigadier out for one weekend, it was the same brigadier who complained about the sideburns. It's a true story, because I told you Stax was decorated. Stax pulled the most incredible bravery, not stunt, but that's as good a word as any for now, in Iraq, and the first Sea Lord flew out to present him with the medal. And the Royal Marines were playing football when the first Sea Lord got there. So they tried to delay him, sir, the ultimate head of the Navy, from watching the football, but he wouldn't be delayed. And he walked round the side of HQ, and there on the pitch were 2 teams of Royal Marines, one in drag, one naked, you see. The Sea Lord told me this story, and he said they hunt as a pack. Everything they do in sync. So the naked team, seeing their ultimate boss, apart from Her Majesty, the ultimate boss, they were exactly in sync, preparatory to running, cupping their balls, and they line up in front of him, and he's got a medal to present. And Stax is on the naked team. So there's the first Sea Lord. Where do you? Going to put Stax said to me, I was going to suggest, of course, he put it through one of my nipples, but I didn't think it was quite the occasion. So Stax, with his head reverentially low, Stax said, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for flying out to present it to me. It's a great privilege. Think nothing of it. And took the medal and pinned it in his hair like Carmen with her rose. That's how he got decorated. But the photograph of they were dressed again, but the photograph of him with the other, the thing, it got into the papers. A brigadier noticed that some of them had their sideburns too long and said he was going to fly out and himself measure their sideburns when he got there. So he did that, but they got wind of that. So what they did was completely shave all their sideburns off. So they all lined up for him to measure their sideburns. They have no sideburns. So he retaliated by calling a drill, which Stax had to do because he's, the shoutiest one. But Stax had a sore throat. He lost his voice. So me, being quite a voice expert, he came to me and he said, is there anything? And I said, yes, leave it to me. I had him doing saline douches, salt water up both noses to get it all going. brown sauce from the naffy on Christmas bacon, and then just dump the brown sauce down your throat. And then I got a straw, and I made him, make all his sounds into a straw, and that lubricates. And I got his voice back for him. It took me 2 hours to get his voice back for him. But the brigadier then said, as it was a Sunday, there could be no obscenities during the parade. So Stax had his straw. So he's going, quick, march, you for the love of... So he got away with it that way. So he's rather lovable, our boy. And I'd like to tell you quite a serious thing and then a very touching thing that makes me my most proud to have been a mascot to 4-2 Commando Stax. One is the harrowing one, that they were going door to door, making sure that the villagers, this was north of Basra, had electricity and running water, which you probably remember seeing on the news happening, and would often lead to the villagers being murdered by the insurgents for accepting help from the infidel. And there was a couple, and they had a son of about 8 and a daughter of about 3. And through the interpreter, they were, no, we don't need anything. You can just pass on to the next house. So they passed on to 2 houses. And in that house where the people said they needed no help, a grenade detonated. They came running. So the Marines obviously hit the deck on the other side of a hillock, watching what was going on. Apart from Rinkdink, who heard the screaming, so he was on his feet and running. He shouldn't have done that. They were saying, Marines, come back. No, Rinkdink was running. He was a medic. The family came back out, and the mother, through the interpreter, shouting now that the 8-year-old had decided that the grenade that was in the house, for whatever reason, was a toy, and had pulled the pin out of it. And he had sheared his sister's scalp. It was hanging. So Rinkdink, the medic, wrapped her in his desert scarf to the helicopter. They had a 6.5-hour flight, which was the nearest place for them to find a hospital with a CAT scan. Ran the medics on board the helicopter, and Rinkdink, they did what they could. They kept her alive, and they ran into the hospital. And as Rinkdink was running into the hospital with her, there was a VIP tour over from the UK, and he heard a man in this tour group say what a sin it was that this enemy kid could have a CAT scan out there when someone in his constituency over in the UK had to wait 11 months. This made Rinkdink's blood boil, but because the man's a civilian, he's also an officer. Remember, if you're a civilian, you're an officer, which of course me standing still on the tank, Stax seems to have forgotten. Rinkdink waited because he knew that this man would have to obey the call of nature. And eventually he did. He came out into the compound to use a portaloo. And as Rinkdink said to me, you know what it is with portaloos? When you're big and strong like I am, they can so easily tip over door to the floor. So he dealt with that. But the other thing I'm very proud of
was
Stax. I know, I love that story.
Yeah, definitely.
Isn't it brilliant that? I love that.
Yeah.
And Stax did a fun run between Kandahar, this was in Afghanistan, obviously. I have to make it clear that it's Afghanistan, not Iraq, only because Stax, when he read my diaries to check the material, he had to take out one thing. He said, you keep putting how beautiful the view is from Basra of the Himalayas. They're not in Iraq. So I have to think, where am I? Where am I? So, but he did like that. I said that the color of dried faded ink. Thank you. Look at me on a creative writing course. So, Stack did this fun run between Kandahar and Kabul, and gave most of the money to naval hardship funds, which I was doing at the National Maritime Museum myself, and kept some back, though, to buy his grandmother's last remaining friend, Edna Johnson, her own transistor radio. Stax, his granny was a church organist, which is why Stax got to look after the CSE tour and to guard me on Her Majesty the Victory because of me singing, because he told them his granny was a church organist, so they give him all the artistic stuff to do. And Edna Johnson wrote a letter which got over to the base, thanking them for this transistor radio, and it was on the wall of the Major Stove and Bradford's office. And I saw it there because we went to ask Major Stove and Bradford permission for me to run up and down the Himalayas, which are in Afghanistan, they are, because I needed to stretch my hamstring, because I tore my hamstring to 2.5 degree. And as Stax himself said, down the back of it, it looked like pureed canary. It was ghastly. I was hopping on the other foot. And for bless Stax, though, 4 times a day. This was after he calmed down with me, because he was coming back to the tent again to bollock me. I used to dry my pink ballet tights on the anti-blast wall, which drove him mad. He was coming to tell me off, and we were still not getting on. But I was outside my tent sewing my ballet shoes, and the younger squaddies were sitting around me, and I was asking them questions, and they were telling me that they were, and he realised Madame Galina becoming Mummy Galina. That's when I stopped wanting to shoot you. So he took me to the gym 4 times a day to help stretch it and rehabilitate it so I could carry on the tour. We'd go first thing after breakfast, and then in the afternoon, and he'd go warming up on the cross trainer. And then after the gig, I'd go in still in the costume and warm down, except the Americans, it was their gym, would ask me to leave because they have a no bare arms rule. So I'd have to come back with a shawl. And that did really bless him. And I'll tell you about the gym, though. So the 3 most gung-ho services are the Brits here, the Americans here, and the Canadians at the back of this gym when I was on the cross trainer on the incline. And the Royal Marines had normal PE kits on and they were doing their weights. The Americans were warming up to garage music before they played human ping pong with medicine balls. And the Canadians, they were all doing yoga while one of them played the guitar. And it's the Canadians, though, because they discovered all the thing between mood and everything else. The Brits on their walls had glamour model posters, you know, and the Americans are not allowed anything like that. And they had wrestling heroes. The Canadians, because of their research, they had adverts for probiotic yogurt on those. But they, you know, this gut research that's come out now, this is 2006. The Canadians were well ahead of the curve doing the thing about probiotics and the effect on the mind. Yeah. So, sorry, that's just a detail. So, as I say, I saw this thank you letter. Sorry, I'm going to bring it up. I do remember it. From the, oopsie, maybe I'm not going to bring it up. This thank you letter from Edna Johnson.
Yeah.
Dear 4-2 Commando, and in particular, my beloved Stax, God bless you for the gift of the transistor radio. I'm 97. I live at the Larch Trees Rest Home in Marsden. My family has long since passed away, and I very rarely have visitors, which makes the gift of the radio most especially welcome. My roommate, Maggie Cook, has had her own radio for as long as we've shared. She's always listened to it with an earpiece or with the volume too low. For some reason, she's never wanted to share it with me. When she was listening to it last Sunday, Desert Island Discs, if I remember rightly, she accidentally knocked her little radio off its shelf. It smashed into many pieces, causing her to cry. It was so sad. Knowing I had my radio, your lovely, lovely gift, she asked if she could borrow it. I told her to go fuck herself. God bless you for your kindness to an old forgotten lady. Sincerely yours, Edna Johnson. Isn't that bad? I love that. I love that.
Oh, this is amazing.
I'm still on the tank, though. I haven't sung the right, sorry. I'm still on the tank. I haven't sung the right song to be lifted down. So let's see if this does it. I thought we'd have some more. His big favorite song is Schubert, the Erlkönig. So we're going to have that. So I'm going to do a little bit of telling you the story. It's quite complicated. That the father, am I still in? The father it's narrator, father, son, and this ghastly elf king. And the narrator here's the father riding through the night, and he's got the kid warm in his arms, and what's the panic? And the father saying to the kid, what is the panic? What is this? And the child, though, can see the elf king, and he can hear the elf king calling to him and promising him that they're going to have fun and that his daughter's coming. And every time the kid is more and more terrified, telling his father, but can't you hear him talking? Can't you? His daughter's there. And then he says, Father, he's hurt me. He's grabbed hold of it, because the elf king said, if you don't come willingly with me, I'm going to take you by horse, you know? And the father rides and rides, and he gets off the horse at the end, and in his arms, the child was dead. So this is the song that hopefully gets me back off the tank.
So spät durch Nacht und Wind. Es ist der Vater mit seinem Kind. Hat den Knaben wohl in den Arm. Fasst ihn sicher, hält ihn warm. Mein Sohn, was birgst du so bang dein Gesicht? Siehst, Vater, du, den erkenn ich nicht. Den erkenn ich mit Kron und Schweif. Mein Sohn, es ist ein Nebelstreif. Du liebes Kind, komm, geh mit mir, gerade schöne Spiele spielt ich mit dir. Manch bunter Blumen sich an dem Strand, meiner Mutter auch manch gulden Gewand. Mein Vater, und hörst du nicht, was der König mit leise verspricht? Sei ruhig, bleibe ruhig, mein Kind, im dürren Blättern säuselt der Wind. Willst, feine Knabe, du mit mir gehen? Meine Töchter sollen dir walten schön, meine Töchter fühlen die nächtigen Wein und wiegen und tanzen und singen dich ein, und wiegen und tanzen und singen dich ein. Mein Vater, und siehst du nicht dort, erkenn ich Töchter am düstern Ort. Mein Sohn, ich seh es genau, es scheinen die alten Weiden so grau. Ich liebe dich, mich reißt deine schöne Gestalt, und bist du nicht willig, so brauch ich Gewalt. Mein Vater, jetzt fasst mich an, erkenn ich, hat mir ein Leid getan. Den Vater Klaus sitzt, reitet geschwind, hält in Armen des wechselnden Kind. Reicht im Hof mit Mühe und Not, in seinen Armen das Kind. war tot.
Oh, wow. Oh, this was mesmerizing.
Oh, thank you.
Really?
That is the song, ladies and gentlemen, that is the song that you have to sing to prevent the Royal Marines Commando from stuffing you in the heart of the water tank. If you want to know how to get out of that, you sing El König. And that is my show. And that's it.
Oh, this was amazing. Really.
Thank you.
I really thank you so much. You know, I see your posts on Facebook, and I think the whole time I so would love to come and see you. I really would love to see you live. And now you've done this for me on Zoom, and it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for asking me. It's lovely. And just share whatever you want.
Yeah.
And also, at some point, we will do it so that you see it. So, of course, when I do it live, what I do is I say, I do a short version, the opening of the ballerina. I get someone I will plant a heckle. Shh, don't tell anyone, plant a heckle. And then we'll tell just the story of trying to stuff me in the tank with the song. And then we'll do it how it's meant to go. So then we'll go back and do the boys out of the audience. So it's like a variety turn.
Yeah.
But it's fun to do it just live like this and just do the book show. Live, it's live. It's not it's live on Zoom.
Yeah,
it felt live. It felt like not a Zoom show, Petra. Thank you.
Yeah, but may I ask the ballerina something?
Yes, of course. Hang on. Let's go with it.
I love her. She's just adorable. But how was it for you in the war zone? When you think of
the main thing is, of course, that you can't afford to take out so many pairs of tights. And so what is brilliant about it is you have plain white tights, and the naffy tea, which they bring in a bucket, is ideal because if you play one of the roles I play, which is one of the girls who end up dying, which most of the roles are, I mean, only Coppelia lives, doesn't she? And it makes it the right color of flesh color. You dye it in tea, and then you dry it on the anti-blast wall. So it's just those things. You have to have enough. And you know, when I didn't have a makeup mirror, you know, the wonderful boys in the 9th Squadron, they noticed I was struggling. What they did, they set up my dressing room. So they moved there's like a heating pipe, like an anaconda. And they put the mouth of the anaconda above where I was going to get changed. And they caught him. They put the curtain, and they gave me my own mug with the spoon. I was included in the tea run, you know. But when they realized I had no makeup because I was beside this hangar in Bastion, you don't have like a nice mirror with the lights around it in Camp Bastion, you know. They drove a Jeep out so that I could then use the side mirror and do my makeup. And one of them, marvelously, because you have to don your ballet shoes, he said, I will make better darning for you. And I never allow anyone, but of course you're not going to argue, he's out there. And so I just thought, let's be kind you've never seen neater stitches in your life. I have kept that shoe because the teeny, tiny stitches that he did out there. So there were things, because you are, of course, you're in danger, but you have to get yourself on a stage and you have to do a performance of Nikia with your scarf. You have to do that. And that is all that we were there for. And to be mumsy with them and to find out something about them, which is anathema to a performer, because performers, you know, they only talk about themselves. But, you know, I found you have to ask questions. And then, so it was a very, you either like laughing your head off or you're just crying because it's just insane out there.
Oh, amazing. Oh, you have had such a great experience, I'm sure. I mean, life-changing. That sounds much more exciting than the Royal Opera House stage.
I'd like to go out the Royal Opera stage. The closest I've got is one of the studios. I'd like to be able to tell you that by maybe being a guest on the New Year's Eve Fledermaus or something, you know.
Yeah.
You never say die. Name the well from which you will not drink, you know.
Yeah.
Make it very often.
But Iestyn, I want to ask you now, what is your wish for the future?
I think this show, to keep all the things, because Sir Humphrey Burton lives down the road. He told me, put everything on the same stage. He said he's seen a lot of things that I've been doing. And he said, yes, go into opera. I do want to go. I tell you what has just happened that's wonderful. And this is a dream, that I house sat for someone who was stuck. And I didn't ask her for money, so she just drives me places. It's one lovely thing. And she was then, she has horses. She was delivering manure, like you are, to some members of Amici, the ensemble that both play in the Academy of St. Martin's in the Fields. So she mentioned me as a house sitter because they were stuck for a house sitter themselves. And they are now we're going to do some Schubert in recital, there and I, simply because she was, so that is a dream, to do some Schubert, which I adore. Schubert, even more than, in a way, more than opera. My dream is to go back and do Lieder again, because I think the repertoire is, I mean, I'm still a bit fluffy sometimes with the German because I'm just so nervous, and also having to talk into the dance and the whole thing. It just, to try and read yourself is so difficult, you know, or it's a munch the scream, I'm sure, it's tricky. I would love to do some Schubert in, you know, a group of Schubert when they do it, one of the quintets or something would be divine. That would be divine. That's my head. I want my second book to come out. I'm sending that to agents now. The Devil Made Your Todger. Just to express myself, but also to give people. Yesterday I did this show live for the Leon C U3A. And the response is one to the singing like you've had. That's very touching because it's new to me. I've only really sounded like this for the last few months. And it's been a lot, the brain power in retraining, because all the stuff I've been singing for years, and to retrain it in your new technique, you know this yourself, it's driving me nuts. It really is driving me nuts. Anything you have to relearn, the brain, because the brain wants to say, no, we're doing it this way. We're going to go, no. It's tricky. So but yesterday another woman came up to me and she was tearful and just said, I appreciated the terror for the first time of what it must be like to go out to somewhere like that. And she said, but for the boys as well. I said, they usually won't admit. They did to me admit to terror. But I said, Stax himself says that going out to one of the big two, it's like you've been beamed down off the Starship Enterprise. And this time Scotty has well and truly got the coordinates buggered, because even for him, frontline decorated, you know, man, he's in close protection now. He's doing that. He found that, and he said, a lot of his reaction to me was that he realised how vulnerable I was out there. That, you know, what was I doing there? And I suppose he said he was compensating more the other way. So I think it's to try and give people a view into something. I have quite a bizarre view of the world. I think I do. Yes, I have a view of the world, and it's to share that, but it's also to find what we share. What do we respond to? Where are we the same? And also to celebrate individual approaches to things.
But you know what you're saying now is really what I've discovered over the time, is that art has a way of making us, well, it's you've entertained now, but you also have opened up a view of this war zone that we've read about and we saw on television, but you were there firsthand. And you, through comedy, you sort of make us realize what really went on through there for a person from the outside. You know, it's different when you're in the forces, but for you from the outside, what you've experienced there. And isn't it amazing how art brings that?
Yes. Yeah. It's the whole thing about going on the stage and dancing. There was a kid, I remember watching in the front row, there was a kid and he was wearing his uniform like a snuggle blanket. He must have been doing his Year for the Queen. He must have been 17, and we're in the middle of nowhere because they took us to the outlying bases where they never had entertainment. And he just was like this at the comedians, and I went on stage and I remember just watching him, and point like a kid.
Yeah.
That was it. That, and then I got Reggie, one of his company, on the stage. Sorry, this always. And Reggie was one of the best I ever had at it. And sorry. I think it's because they're so young. They're just, you know, I was old up there. And Reggie was a hero because he was so determined. And this is me as a creative person. The thing about, he was one of the ones who had the best response. I wrapped myself up in a scarf and you look at me with great laugh. He was hysterical. But he was determined to do his jeté every time. And he banged his head on the lights because he jumped so high in the gig itself. It was mentioned in the Times diary, and that happened because they were sending excerpts home. He was her hero for everywhere because he took my set and he made it his own. He kept making me wait. So he could do, I've got a bit here, I need to work out my bit. And it was fascinating in watching him. He was in the logistics of tank regiments. He's got that kind of really logical brain. Watching him take on what we're doing. He had to get this right, and he was going to take time. It was one of my most fascinating gigs ever, and it went over time. He was going to take his time to work out what he had to do and how I needed him to do it, but what he was going to bring to it. That, we hung out for the rest of that week. And that was a special moment for them, that he was a hero around the camp.
This is so touching, really. And yeah, and like you say, so young, and they are, you know, they had to fight there and experience all that. But now, Iestyn, I also want to say to you that at your age, and I'm saying that because I'm also 56. I'm 57 actually, but I still say I'm 57
in April.
Yeah, but isn't it amazing that we can now still do things, you know? And there was a time where you always thought if you reached 50 or if you reach 40 even, then your career is sort of over. But now we live in a time where we can reinvent and do things. And like you said, I mean, your voice is so amazing, and you can still do so much with that. So I really admire you for that, and it's really inspiration. And I think this is something that younger people should also see, to think, you know, we have a lifetime in front of us to inspire and to do things and to have joy, you know, joy in doing things.
It's to be in the moment. It is that you must be in the moment and not think so much ahead, what's now, and not be in the past. You must know where you came from, but it's if you're always thinking about the overness of things, that they're finished, that's never a good idea. Yeah. No, it's a moment, particularly in the arts. I think maybe that's what the arts does teach us, is the present. That you've got to be, what's that now? Not this. Because if you think ahead, you know this, if you think ahead in a performance, you're finished. You just do. You have to, no, back now. Or if you're going, oh, that bit, no, now. Yeah. I think that's written on my, should be written on everyone's laptop screens. Just no dash now exclamation mark.
Yeah. That's a good way. Yeah. I will remember this now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we do it. But thank you so much. Oh, you have to do a shout out first before we go. Do you have a favorite coffee place or a favorite restaurant, or a shout out to any restaurant that you have in the area?
Yeah, in my area, I love to go to do you know what? There's a coffee link in the cafe in the supermarket in Leiston that I go in. So there's the best decaf and lovely things. So there's that I love. No, I mean, I'll give a shout out to Hellis Construction, because he is my greatest mate in the world, who's been really supportive of the singing, because he was my neighbour. Hellis Construction. He stands for all the good in life. He's
Really?
the kindest person, most professional, most thoughtful. So yeah, I would say him. Because I
Okay.
wouldn't be here, standing here, able to do this now if he hadn't, you know,
Yeah.
been so, come on, you got this, you got this, you got this. It's such a support because we were neighbours during lockdown. Him, Hellis Construction, Oliver Hellis.
I'm going. Does he have a website? Then I'll put his website on the description as well.
Yeah, Oliver Hellis Construction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, we'll do that. Okay. And I'll tag him in the Facebook post as well. We'll give him a bit of attention.
Yeah, Oliver Jack Hellis. On Facebook, he's Oliver Jack Hellis. Yes, do that.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much. You've entertained me so wonderfully and uplift my whole weekend now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too. It's been a treat to do this. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. You are a wonderful. I feel so privileged that I met you. You're such a kind and wonderful person, really. And my wish is that I meet you one day in person.
We will, definitely we will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Iestyn.
Bye. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.